It's time. Get your popcorn.
Get your candy. Get your chicken fingers.
And most of all, get comfortable. Because it's time for Royal Cast Live! What's up, everybody? And welcome to the Royal Cast Live, the only bi-weekly online variety show that brings you artists, authors, dancers, and the creative community live streamed to your favorite device. I'm Lutalo Olutosin. Some people call me Sweet Lou, and I'll be curating your journey through the Royal Cast landscape. Why do African Americans dwell on what Black people do or what Black people don't do? As if there's some magic playbook that all Black people both possess and have somehow committed to memory. It's kind of funny, right? The famous comedian and entrepreneur Steve Harvey even made this idea a recurring point in his popular talk show. You can feel free to fact check me if you like there. Perhaps it's because major accomplishments of Black people haven't been credited to them correctly. And even when Blacks are credited, it's usually with a negative spin of some type, or some type of shade that's thrown that alludes to a specific period of history. For example, this is the first Black fill in the blank since the end of slavery, or since the Civil Rights era. As if the lives of Black people began with their capture in Africa and enslavement in the Americas. I submit 2 points for your consideration. First, time itself is not actually separated into the various segments or eras, as many people would have you believe. That's history's job, and they are not the same thing. Don't get this twisted. Second, civilization really did start in Africa, and that's not some cruel joke, it's an actual fact. And it's a crucial waypoint in understanding who today's Black people really are. But back to the topic at hand, what Black people do or what Black people don't do. I believe one's past behaviors and accomplishments are really good indicators of future behaviors and accomplishments, unless there's some external force that's put into play. Personally, it's hard for me to imagine that Black people would populate the earth over millions of years, create the disciplines of science, mathematics, and present the great wonders of the world, and then forget everything they've accomplished in order to become enslaved and colonized by Europeans. Something just doesn't add up here. Therefore, I will enumerate a running list of some of what Black people have already done. Now, you know, this list of stolen credits is going to be long indeed. Fortunately, we can identify many of them and set the record straight. Starting with our beloved Jack Daniels whiskey. Who knew an ex-slave named Nathan Nearest Green would train Jack Daniels on how to distill whiskey and then work for him as a master distiller using the techniques and recipes that he already had? So much so that he made Jack Daniels what it is today. So the next time you're pouring your Jack and Coke, make sure that you take a moment and raise your glass to Uncle Nearest and say, thank you. Look, friends, things are tough everywhere in the world these days. One can easily find themselves in what seems like the most hopeless of circumstances. The one thing I can tell you for sure is there's always hope. There's always another option. Always. Sometimes hearing the right words is all it takes to set you straight. Here's a message from our Director of Communications.
Somebody, somewhere is depending on you to do what God has called you to do.
Hey everybody, it's time for the Royal Cast Challenge. This is the time in the show where everybody watching gets to show everybody else how smart they really are. So the challenge works like this. I'll give you a question and everybody will have 48 hours to get their response in. You'll just send your response in by text 470-220-4518. Everyone has a chance to win. Now everybody's not gonna win, but everybody has a chance to as long as you enter. This week's challenge, as November is thought of as Veterans Month, we will pay tribute. The tales of bravery and courage are hallmarks of the Buffalo Soldiers, who were the first Black soldiers who were allowed to fight in the U.S. Army. The Buffalo Soldiers were expert horsemen and cavalrymen. So the question to you, is there any reason or time in history that the Buffalo Soldiers would be forced or asked to trade in their horses for bicycles and ride off into the sunset?
Straight coast, straight coast, straight coast, straight coast.
Let me help you to find your soul.
30 years ago, a dapper young musician came up on the scene. He was cool, he was elegant, and he was playing jazz, man. Then suddenly, he started playing hip-hop, neo-soul, R&B, with people like Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, and Common. The young man was on fire, and then suddenly, he was gone. But he left us with his treasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Roy Hargrove and the Roy Hargrove Quintet.
Roy, you were telling us that you were just kind of getting your set going when you ran into a little time constraint.
Oh, that's just part of it.
Well, how is it when you're performing at a festival like this as opposed to when you're doing your own set? You have more time to stretch out and learn? Does it?
Well, usually when you're in an outdoor event, they kind of keep it kind of closely knitting. I mean, everything is kind of, very put together in an orderly fashion. So you kind of have to just kind of go with it.
And do you do anything different to get the whole band into the groove a little faster in a set that you might otherwise? Or?
It's just timing.
Yeah.
Placing at the end of the song, starting the rhythm so they know exactly where it is. Keeping it simple. The KISS principle.
And how did you find the fans today here at Newport?
Oh, they seem to be having a good time in spite of the dark skies.
Yeah.
But it's still beautiful out here, It's, I always like playing near the water. It sort of gives an inspiration because you're really close to nature, and it just sort of gives you that driving energy.
When we use this interview, we're going to be hearing your answers, but nobody's ever going to hear my questions. So if I ask you things like, how was the crowd here today? If you could start off by saying something like, well, the crowd here at Newport, but that kind of thing, so that people know what you're talking about, because they're never going to hear what I ask you.
Right.
But you were talking about nature and being close
Yeah.
to giving you a good feeling.
It's nice. Whenever we play in a situation where there's water nearby, it's always fun.
Did that inspire you to play Nature Boy as part of the set today?
That's just one of the tunes that's in the repertoire. Larry Willis arranged it. We just kind of play one chorus of that, and it leads into an original song by Larry Willis, which is called "To Wisdom the Prize." Yeah.
Okay. Could you give us that again and mention Nature Boy because I asked you Nature Boy, but nobody will hear that. So.
Well, we started it's really like when we played Nature Boy, it's like an introduction to a song written by Larry Willis called "To Wisdom the Prize."
Okay.
Why though? I mean, they hear what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You hear it. They
You're
can
right.
edit it.
You're right. We can edit it, but
Right.
and that's why it helps when you give us the introductory part of the comics.
I know.
I'm listening.
But it feels forced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, what'd you say?
I read something about you comparing your playing or trying to.
No, I'm back. I'm just playing.
You were talking about playing a trumpet, trying to kind of be like a singer, imitate like a singer. And a lot of times, we always hear about singers talking about how they're trying to be like musical instruments, but we don't usually hear musicians talk about trying to emulate singers.
Well, most horn players, when you talk about playing like singers, horn players tend to want to have a sound that represents the voice. And so, and in turn, the vocalists want to be able to move around with their voice, and have dexterity like musicians, like horn players. It goes both ways. I mean, actually, if you can get a balance of both, of being able to communicate your ideas clearly, that comes with practice and doing the tedious things like long tones and lip slurs and that kind of stuff. And then actually saying something, actually making a statement that has like a beginning, middle, and an end, that tells a story. So if it's like balancing both of those things, because you have a lot of cats. Some musicians play with a lot of technique, and they have, they can dazzle you, and you'll be like, wow, how did he do that? But then there are other cats that just play one note, and you're like in tears, So it's like having a balance of both of those things. You can't have one without the other, like love and marriage. Love and marriage.
So do you want to start with that influences thing?
Yeah, well,
Or what do you want to say?
I always listen to a lot of singers and people like Nat King Cole, Shirley Horn, Sarah Vaughan, little Jimmy Scott. Man, it's because, I mean, you know, if you know the words to the song, it helps you to really understand how to project the right kind of mood while you're playing the melody and to interpret the melody, you know. And I believe that, you know, in just like really just speaking the melody and making the statement, you know, without a lot of embellishment. I mean, some is cool, but like too much can be, you know, like you're wondering what song is he playing? What song is that? It sounds like, and that's not it. You know, so that's why, you know, I try to listen to a lot of vocal jazz, as well as just any kind of singers, you know, gospel and R&B. You know, it just helps you to develop your sound so that you use your instrument as a voice. As far as like trumpet players go, there's a whole list of cats that I've listened to for inspiration. People like Clifford Brown and Fats Navarro, Lee Morgan and Blue Mitchell, Kenny Dorham, Dizzy, Miles, definitely Louis Armstrong and Roy Eldridge. I mean, there's so many, you know. And I think that, you know, this is the kind of thing that builds your vocabulary as far as, you know, the things that you play when you improvise. You draw on more or less, you know, not so much transcribing the solos note for note, but just understanding maybe why he might have played that phrase, you know, or just really trying to understand what he might have been feeling that day, the reason why he played that.
What made you get started as a musician in the first place? What made you want to or inspired you?
Man, I heard my elementary school band play, and the kids were getting up taking solos, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that.
Where was that? Not too many.
I was in Texas at William Brown Miller Elementary. We had a band called the Children of Production. It was you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade level, and split up between two different schools, William Brown Miller and John Neely Bryan, which was on the other side of town. So we got together on the weekends to practice together. And, you know, this was a special thing because the band director, a guy named Dean Hill, could teach the kids how to improvise, you know, more or less based on the blues, you know, nothing too complicated, just, you know, maybe he'd get you in the office and sit you, you know, play something on the piano like, doom, 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 something like that, right? And, you know, give you like 3 or 4 little blues phrases, and you take it home, you practice. And then when you get on stage at the performance, he's there next to you, urging you to really express it, you know, to really say it, you know. So, you know, this is how I developed like the emotional quality of jazz. And early on, you know, from being around Mr. Hill. You know, because I mean, you'd be playing and then he would just be like, go ahead, you know, say it like you mean it, you know, and that's the kind of thing that, you know, really made you dig in.
Do you get a chance to teach or lecture to kids or students and music students and share that kind of feeling with them?
Yeah, every time I get some time off, I try to make it a point to stay, you know, in the educational system. Like we did a tour of about 40 public schools in New York with Lincoln Center about a year ago. And then, you know, whenever we go to a town where there's a, you know, like if we're doing like a college date, I'll make sure I do a master class or 2 or something like that, because it's important to keep the tradition alive within the educational system too. I mean, there's only so much that you can learn in a classroom as far as learning how to play, but there are, you know, certain things that sort of help you develop as far, and you have a lot of time to practice, you know. and compose, you know, because when you start getting on the road, there's no more time for anything. That's it. It's like get up and take a train, then a plane, then a boat, then the bus, and then to the stage, and then to the hotel, and then sleep for 3 hours, and then do it all again.
That doesn't sound so glamorous.
Yeah, but it's still, you know, the reward comes with when we get on stage and the people become uplifted by the music, you know. So that's why we're here. And, you know, the hardest part is actually getting to the gig. But, you know, when we actually get there and we get the energy going back and forth with the people, it's very, it makes it all worthwhile, you know.
I suppose you've been doing that all over the world.
Yeah, everywhere, yeah. A lot of places. Not all over the world, not yet. But
you're working on it.
yeah.
So you get inspired in playing before the audience, or when the audience brings it back to you. Is it like a conversation you're having with the audience, or something where how they respond to you? Does that kind of?
I think that like in outdoor events, you know, the people are further away, so you have to project the music past the foot of the stage. You know, and in a small, like in a small club setting, you know, the people are right there in front of you, so it's a little bit more intimate. So I think it varies between, you know, with different kinds of audiences. You know, sometimes when you're outside, if it's nice and the weather's good, people really get up and start partying, you know. And then like in clubs, you know, it can turn into something like a revival, you know, depending on the situation and where you are and what kind of music you play for them. Okay. If it matches, you know, what they want to hear.
You've already given me plenty that I can use.
All right, cool.
I appreciate it.
And that's our show, everyone. Hope we brought a smile to your face, some groove in your soul, and warmth to your heart. We hope to see you in a couple of weeks when we'll be right back here and we'll do it all again with a whole new show. Again, I'm Sweet Lou Olatosin, along with the Royal Cast Live crew. And thanks for joining Royal Cast Live!
And where's Papa? He was trying to get his through, now he's just trying to get through. But where's your